Welcome to Yoga Chats with me, your host, Greg Walsh. Today's guest is Sharon Brady. Sharon did her first yoga class about 17 years ago. She did yoga teacher training in 2017, 2018. Ashtanga is Sharon's first love, but she started teaching Golden Yoga in October 2018. And now yoga has taken over my life, to quote Sharon.
In a nice way.
You're very welcome, Sharon. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. I'm delighted to chat to you. Can I ask you a couple of questions, Sharon?
You can.
So, would you tell us about your yoga journey?
My yoga journey. Okay, so I still feel like I'm on it. There's no end in sight, which is also a good thing. But I suppose I did that first class about 17 years ago. And it was just a friend said to me, "Oh, do you want to try this out?" And I'll go along to anything just to try something new. So I went along and enjoyed it. And then I suppose for the next few years just kind of dipped in and out of it a little bit. But I suppose I always kept going back. So there was obviously something there that hooked me in straight away. And then it was a few years later I got into that steady weekly practice. And that was enough for a wee while. And then, I suppose 3 years ago, I got into the stage where I was like, I just want more of this now. The weekly class is great, but I'm ready for the next step. And I suppose I'd actually hemmed and hawed about doing the teacher training for maybe 2 or 3 years. And I was like, no, I'll do it next year. No, I'll do it next year. And then finally I kind of went, okay, what are you waiting for? Just go do it, and that's when it started to really take over my life.
Yes, it does. And look at you now. So tell us about doing teacher training, because you're not that long out of it.
No, I'm not. No, and actually, in a way, I feel like it was forever ago. And then I kind of realized, oh my God, I'm still so wet behind the ears at all this, But I did it October, about 2.5 years ago. And funny, I came across my application form recently and I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, why did you decide to do this? What are you looking for? What is your practice? And I was like, God, it's changed. So
was it? I was wondering, were you reading it thinking, who is this? Or did it still ring true?
Part of it, I was like, oh God, she's very familiar. And other parts of it, I was like, oh, I actually hadn't got a clue really what the teacher training was going to be. I think you can read the prospectus and all the rest of it, but I don't think I kind of was ready for how all consuming it was going to be as well. And not so much it's not just the physical side, it's all the other stuff we had to do as well. And I mean, and I became an anatomy geek for the year, to the point where I thought, I think I want to be a surgeon, not a yoga teacher. So,
I remember that.
So it was very all encompassing and so much to learn, and we had a great crew as well like that year. So it was a fabulous experience, and you guys were all so generous. And I do remember the first night we were going around the room and they were like, who wants to teach, or who's just doing it out of interest? And I was like, I think I might like to teach at some point, but like, let's just get through this. And then sure, I was barely qualified. I was like, I'm ready to teach. What do we do? That way. So it was a fantastic journey. But it was exhausting as well. It's I learned so much, but it's effortful as well. Like, you really do need to put the effort in on so many fronts. But it was fantastic. It was, and I definitely came out of that year with a totally different practice in terms of physically, but just yoga off the mat. I think it really changes you, your attitude, your outlook, and in such a good way. So I think it was quite life-changing.
Yeah, that's lovely to hear. Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, and there's no coming back from it.
No, that's the other thing. I think you do it and you're like, oh, other pieces of training, you do it and you think that's been great learning now, and I know something else, but actually there is no coming back from it. Like, it can change you quite fundamentally. And I think once you're on it, that's it now. You just keep going,
That's it. Yeah. But look at you going now. And so the funny thing is, your practice was, your first love really was Ashtanga yoga. And you are in Samadhi, you're teaching a class called Golden Yoga. Tell us.
Yeah, I still don't know how that happened, to be honest, because like, they are polar opposites. But so I think I kind of, myself and Avian, who was another teacher on the course with me, so we kind of fell into the teacher training, or sorry, into the Golden Yoga. And I think on the teacher training, we had done a class using the chair. Now, it was a much kind of tougher, more advanced use of the chair. But I think both of us came out of it kind of going, God, there's so much potential for that, you know, and like anybody could do yoga with the chair. And then it obviously just sparked an interest in both of us, and we both got very excited about it. And it was really lovely to buddy up with somebody, I think, as you know, launching into something new. And it was on the Samadhi timetable in Drogheda, but not in Dublin. So it was a new class, and it was
I
just a
remember
great
you going
process.
up to meet the teacher
Up
in
to meet,
Drogheda to
yeah, yeah. And we
Slava
did the
to have a
class with
chat.
Slava and his yogis up there, and both of us came out kind of going, yeah, this is definitely what we want to do. And it was a lovely class. And it's just, I suppose, like both of us were and still are just committed to yoga being for everybody. And I think that's why, like, I teach other yoga classes as well, but I absolutely love the Golden Yoga, because I just, yoga is for everybody, you know. And I think it's great that you can just, with the use of a chair, you can just make it accessible to people. So it's great. So I think we started the Golden Yoga, like, it was, you know, for people who were over 60. The current age range is probably 60 to early 80s. But it was for people who were new, or people who could have, you know, for different reasons, just needed more assistance in class. And it was really for people who were maybe kind of newer to yoga, rather than people who, you know, their bodies and their practice are aging and developing together. This was for people who were taking up yoga with no previous experience of it. So yeah, it's just, I love it. And we've a great crew of very committed yogis, and they've kind of built nice friendships around it and that as well. So like, there's quite a social side to the class as well, which, yeah, I absolutely love. So they're a great crew. Very lucky to have them.
Yeah, well, they're very lucky to have you. It's something I've seen over the years that like, if you are fit and able-bodied, there's any amount of yoga. And but for someone who, you know, has extra needs, like, I work with a couple of people, and they would struggle in a regular yoga class, but we work together, and they really appreciate it, because, you know, you're providing something that is not otherwise available. Whereas you can find any class, if you're able to jump through all the hoops, it's fine. But if you need to sit down to do your yoga practice, it's an underserved community. So I think it's really lovely that you are offering that. So fair play
It's
to you,
fantastic.
Sharon.
And it's just for them, I think, as well. I think it's what's lovely about and maybe it's the age group and kind of, you know, where you're at with your body and that as well. But they're very focused on, you know, their body as they need it day to day. So balance and range of motion to be able to do stuff, you know, so your back is a little less achy when you go to do stuff in the garden. And so it's very, I feel like I suppose yoga is practical for all of us in terms of the physical side of stuff, but I really do feel like it's very supportive of like the aging process as well, and movement and staying fit and active and that. So it's never too late to start, because I mean, now obviously we're in the Zoom room now, but when we were all in the studio together, like, the changes, it's a crew of women as it happens, but the changes in their bodies and their posture, in kind of, for my own mum as well, like confidence with balance and stuff like that, it's quite amazing. You know, even that 1 hour a week can have quite serious positive benefits.
Those are such real gains, aren't they? Because doing yoga, it's lovely to be able to touch your toes or whatever, but
yeah, but you're not going to get an award for that. Like, just being able to bend over and get back up again is great.
That's real stuff. That's real stuff. Being able to reach up and, you know, take the tin of biscuits down from the high shelf, or whatever. I'm being facetious, but it's those are really important gains that will really matter to people. Yeah, that's wonderful. Have you had men, or has it always been women only?
Do you know something? It's been majority women. I think at one stage, one man did join us for a few weeks, but I think he had a kind of a yoga practice anyway. And then hilariously, one day I went in to open up, and there was this very young, quite handsome 20-something-year-old guy stood in the middle of all his golden yogis, who were giggling away and delighted to see him. But I think he had just arrived into Dublin for a weekend, saw a class on the timetable that suited, and decided to join us. You know, so It was great crack. It was really good fun. But majority women, majority women,
Yeah.
which is unusual because Samadhi is quite mixed in terms of male
Yeah.
female across the classes. But
Yes.
for the Golden Yoga, it is majority
For
women.
now, but that may
For
change.
now,
How
all
do
are
you,
welcome. Yes.
absolutely, yeah, and all will benefit. My goodness. And how do you feel that your golden yogis have taken to the Zoom experience?
Yeah, mixed to be honest, because half the crew are on it and there's absolutely no bother at all. And the other half, the regulars, the Zoom it's either they don't like it or the techie side of things. But I would text them every Friday morning to say, this is what we did today, so maybe go do it yourself. And then the other side of Zoom is, I suppose, we have few new people in who maybe, wouldn't have gotten into the studio or it wouldn't have suited time-wise. So it's different. Like I suppose like everybody, I've gotten used to the Zoom room, but I'd love to be the studio. I really would. And it's just the little subtleties and like that, the social, like we would regularly go for a cup of coffee, all of us after class, and we can't do that. So I think we're all just looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to seeing the people who haven't been able to join us over the last year as well. So maybe, hopefully, towards the end of this year.
It is something that, we could look at the option of having a camera and a screen in the studio. So if there are people who are Zooming from further afield, they could still join. They can't drink the coffee though.
They can't drink the coffee. So and we're talking Bailey's coffees because it's been so long since we've seen each other. So yeah.
Well earned.
That's not motivation to come to your yoga class, Greg.
I'm coming for that coffee.
Yeah, do.
Yeah. So have you any takeaway that viewers could bring home from our yoga chats today?
Yeah, I suppose I really, really am committed to yoga being for everybody. And I really do believe if you can breathe, you can do yoga. It doesn't have to be a headstand. It's just very simple things, very little movements, but we can all do some sort of yoga. So I would hate to think that anybody would think of yoga and go, oh, I can't do that. I'm not fit enough. I'm not flexible enough. I'm not young enough. They're all the very reasons you should be doing yoga, really. So I just think it's so good for everybody. So yeah, you can.
Wise words. That's a lesson for us all. Yeah. Well, on behalf of all of our viewers, Sharon, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to have these yoga chats today. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I hope it was worth your while.
I did too.
So thank you.
Thanks, really. Greg. Thank you.
That's all for now, folks. I'm Greg Walsh. Thank you for watching, and I hope you can join us for more yoga chats soon.